What's good? It's your boy H2O, your potential conditioner. That's right. We're back in the building. Welcome to another episode of the New Balance Podcast. Man, it's so good to see you. So good to be with you. Life is good. Living is good. Man, I have a treat for y'all on today. As you know, we've been doing this series called Marching Towards Manhood, right? And man, I have had some phenomenal guests on. And listen, today the game has just went to a whole nother level. I have a guest in the building. I'm telling you, man, our relationship probably goes back 15, 16 years, but the 15, 16 years, man, feels like maybe 30. This guy is definitely a brother from another mother. I remember when we connected, the Bible talked about how Elizabeth and Mary, when they got together, how the babies in their wombs would leap. And literally, when I met him, and every time that we get together, this brother makes my babies leap. And I love him dearly. His family, we family, period, right? If you can't tell, we look just alike if I were to put my glasses on. I could go on all day telling you about all the great things about this brother, but I don't want to waste any more time. I'm ready to jump in. New Balance audience, show some love for my brother, Stephen Holloway. What's up, Steve?
Hey man, what's up, Harry? What's up? Look, I got to get you back. I can't let you just jump out like that, man. Look, the text says that Jonathan and David's hearts,
come on now,
were knitted.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And when David went off, he said, "Look, man, hey, let me know if I can come back, man. You be on this side of the rock, that's gonna tell me yeah. If you're on this side of the rock, that's gonna tell me no, don't come back."
Absolutely.
And so, hey, man, I'm so grateful to have this opportunity, man, with a brother whose hearts are knitted, man. And so the 15 does feel double.
It does. It
does. Like, man, I mean, and we don't talk every day, but
absolutely.
But man, when we do, like, it's like we've been, we haven't missed anything, man. So
we haven't missed any time.
Thank you for everything that you've done with me and for me and for my family, man. And I'm so honored and privileged to be with you today, man. It's just a blessing for me.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited. I might stand up.
Stand up. Hey, man, listen, on the New Balance Podcast, you can stand up, turn or flip, do whatever you will. You understand? Don't pay attention to the cue cards. You be who you are, right? Yeah, man, it's good to have you on here. We've been having this dialogue, brother. I would say, it feels like we've been dialoguing about this for 15 years.
Yeah, man.
One of the things I love about you, Steve, there are many things I love about you, but one thing is for sure is you are definitely a champion of men, right? And it doesn't matter if they're men in our generation or the men in the generation coming behind us. And I couldn't wait to have this podcast with you. I know today, we're going to help some people, man. And that's what this podcast is all about. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It's all about the viewer. And I understand as a man what it's like when you have gaps in your life. Yeah. I understand as a man when you are missing the mark. I understand what it's like as a man to be suffering in silence and feel like you can't tell anybody. So on today, man, I want to have this real open and authentic conversation about marching towards manhood. Now, I understand, man, manhood is constantly evolving and changing, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. But I do understand no matter what evolution is happening with manhood, for you and I, God has already given us a blueprint. And I think it's so important if we're going to be successful as men, if we're going to be marching towards manhood, at some point, man, you got to pick up the blueprint so you can get to the destination. So I'm talking with a brother who's had a phenomenal life, phenomenal experiences, but he also knows what it's like to be at the mountaintop, and he also knows what it's like to be at the valley low. So Steve, man, just kind of catch us up, man. What's going on with you in your life, your family? I know this weekend, man, your girl's home from college, man. Talk to us, man. Let the people know what's going on with you in your life, man.
Well, man, right now I am in a transitioning stage right now.
Absolutely.
course, you know, I got triplets and all three of them in college. They came home this week. And so got a chance to be with them, and they're leaving now to get back to school and be back in 2 more weeks.
All right.
They all need to stay put, but no, they come on there to get the COVID shot. But man, I tell you, I put 25 years of work into ministry, man, and developing that generation behind us.
Yes.
Well as those who were with me, and then those who were ahead of me, I connected with to gain more knowledge and wisdom from them.
Absolutely.
And so I guess I'm at halftime right now.
Yeah.
Making adjustments, getting ready for the next half, for the next half of my life. And I'm really excited about it. Just finished school in 2019. The Lord blessed me to be able to get a bill passed for children who have parents in prison, and we'll talk more about that later.
Yes, sir.
And it's in place now forever.
Yes.
That generation after generation who are experiencing parental incarceration will be able to get resources and assistance so that we could break that cycle and help this next generation of young boys and girls become productive citizens in society, either male or female.
Absolutely.
And prayerfully become disciples.
Yeah, man, you said something so powerful. I want to dig into it just a little. You said, man, that you're in halftime, and I know what it's like to be in the halftime. And well, let me put a little sauce on it. I know what it's like to be at halftime and be down in the game.
Yeah,
it's one thing to be at halftime and you up by 25, but it's another thing to be down by 25. And I want to read a scripture, and I want you to elaborate on this because you said something so critical. If you're a man, the last time you checked, when you woke up this morning, you looked in the mirror, you're a man. Trust me, there are going to be seasons in life where you're dealing with some half times, right? Mm-hmm. And depending on how your outlook is on it, what you do during this halftime is going to be critical for the next 2 quarters of that particular season. That's right. I read this scripture. It says, and Jesus kept increasing in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and people. The key is this. And listen, Jesus kept increasing. So I think sometimes in manhood, we are guilty of getting in areas where we just plateau. In other words, like, I've arrived here, there's nothing left for me to do here, and that's it. But when I look at the life of Jesus and God's word, it says Jesus kept increasing. So if Jesus kept increasing, my question is, what about you and I? So what do you say to that, Steve? Yeah, personally, and just to that topic.
Yeah, the only way you're going to arrive when you feel like you've arrived is when you died in Christ.
Yes, sir.
You would arrive.
Yeah.
Other than that, you haven't arrived nowhere but where you are right now.
Absolutely.
But there is more to do. There is more to gain. Mm-hmm. There is more to give as a real man.
Right.
A man, I think it's all about that relationship with God.
Right.
Because the better that relationship is with him and the stronger it is, he's going to always keep taking you higher and higher and higher.
Absolutely.
You know, some principles I always live by was, Stephen, as long as you remain humble, honest, and helpful, right, you'll keep increasing.
Absolutely.
And like you said, there are seasons, man, when we will, you know, at halftime, you're down. Yeah. At halftime, you're up. In different seasons of your life, man, you just got to make the adjustments. In that relationship, there's a couple of things in that relationship that you have to do. One, you want to make sure you have a responsibility in that relationship with Christ and with God, okay? You got to be responsible. In other words, handling up on your business. Right. Your education, your community, your church, your family. You just have to embrace responsibilities.
Right.
Not only responsibility, but then you got to respect.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta respect your family, your community, the same ones I just mentioned.
Right.
And then every once in a while, you have to refresh.
Mm. Mm.
And sometimes you get to refresh at halftime.
Yeah.
Figure out what you did wrong and correct
Right.
it.
Right. Right.
If you're already on the upswing, then you want to make sure your game plan going into the next season,
Right.
the next couple of quarters are ready and on point and are measurable and make sense.
That's good.
You know, and then there is when a man understands the couple of stages in his life. There's a word, the Greek word I think it's called phralic.
Okay.
When you understand how you're built.
Mm.
And how God designed you in his own image and his
Right.
life
Right.
doesn't change.
Mm. Mm.
Then there is a stage called the warrior stage.
Yeah, man.
We gonna duke it out every kind of way we can. We
Absolutely.
always looking for, am I going on the right track with you?
No, you follow, keep flowing.
Listen, man, we all are looking for a hill to climb. Every man ought to be looking for a hill to climb.
Right. Right.
And so it requires you got to dig in your foxhole and get busy.
Yes, sir.
Developing yourself, surrounding yourself with the right people.
Right.
Then after you come out of that warrior stage, man, then there's that mature stage.
Okay.
I'm not going to do what I used to do this time. If you're doing the same thing this year as you did last year and it ain't improving you,
right,
then you have lost a whole year of
wow,
bettering yourself.
Absolutely.
Of becoming more productive in your life.
Right.
And then that last one I think is called the sage. SAGE, that's wisdom. As you understand now, instead of running down the mountain to try to get one or two of them, you're gonna walk down and get all of them.
Yes.
Just a little, just a little bit different. So I think, man, I'm in that stage now where God has really blessed me to move to the next level. I keep learning. I'm always surrounding myself with somebody. I don't care whether they're young or old. If I feel like this person has some wisdom and they're doing and they living the right way and doing what's right, nobody's perfect.
Right.
Then I'm all good with that. I'm gonna listen.
Right.
And so I hope that makes sense about.
No, it does.
What I'm saying.
Man, that's good stuff. What I want to do is I want to dig even deeper, man. You gave me a platter to work with there, but you said something that was so critical. We used the analogy of being in the halftime of your life. I want you to speak to, as a man, about making adjustments. Now, I'll use this example, but we can really elaborate on it. One of the adjustments that you're making in this halftime season is that, hey, you and your wife now, y'all are empty nesters. Your babies are in college, right? And when you talk about manhood, fatherhood, there are definitely seasons and quarters of adjustments. And so let me also say this too, because I understand too the different viewers that we have. Obviously, no fluff, no hiding. We're definitely men of faith, and we share our belief and our thoughts on our Christian faith. But I do understand there are some brothers that's watching who may not be there yet, who may not believe the way we believe. At the same time, how do we reach them, and how do we make it applicable to them in their lives where they are? Because I understand that was a season in my life where I just wasn't there, right? Now, I'll be honest with you, I desired to be there, but I didn't know how to get there, right? So adjustments, how do we as men make those adjustments? How do we embrace those adjustments? And what do those adjustments look like, right? Because there's one thing for my brother next to me to be going through them, and I see him dealing with adjustments. It's another thing when I'm actually living in those adjustments. Talk to that, Steve. What does it look like? How do you do it? How do you balance it? How do you make it work?
That's a good question, man. I'm thinking about how I made my adjustment. And
Absolutely.
I concur with you about, I knew I needed to do something different, but I wasn't quite ready because I
Right.
was used to being in darkness.
Yeah.
And
Let's
so
talk about it.
when the light showed up, um, you know, I ran a couple of times until finally, man, I was at this point where, okay, I need to do something different now.
Okay.
As you grow older and get mature and begin to see what life is really all about, your desire begins to change. And once that
Yes.
desire changes, man, you got to embrace it.
Mm.
And one of the things you want to do is you want to stay committed to change.
Yes.
When I come out of a 7-year crack cocaine addiction,
Talk about it.
and the reason why I was in that addiction was because I blamed everything on my daddy. One thing we got to accept responsibility without blame.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
He received 5 years or 13 years the first time he went in prison. I was 7 years old when he left.
Okay.
Had that experience of seeing him in that white uniform, us separated by the plexiglass. I couldn't touch him. The smell was different. The sound was different. It was horrific, man. It scared me. I had anxiety, a separation. I was depressed. I was struggling really, really bad. And I clammed up and wouldn't talk to nobody. And that was my first mistake.
Okay.
You gotta talk to somebody who you feel like has the wisdom to help you to transition from darkness to light.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
I mean, you might be your uncle, it might be your it was my grandfather for me. Right. I hung around, I stayed, moved in with him, I listened to him, and he became my God at that time. Kind of absolutely say that, but I just loved him and respect him so much. And he was the model that I wanted to be like.
Absolutely.
So I began to commit to the change and listen to him and obey him. And my dad came home after 5 years, man. He saw me play football at Johnson Junior High School. He was an academic elite at Booker T. Washington High School and starting wide receiver.
Right.
When he came home, he saw me play. I was a wide receiver.
Right.
And man, it wasn't even 16, maybe within 2 years, he caught another case.
Wow.
And this time he received a 99-year sentence and didn't kill nobody.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the collateral consequences of the laws created in the 70s and the 80s, he was caught up in that. And they were targeting men of color.
Absolutely.
So he would spend 30 years of my life behind bars.
Mm.
And I went into crack. I just threw in the towel. I wanted to die. I tried to commit suicide twice. It didn't work. And so finally, man, the night that I robbed the crack dealer, took about 40 rocks. I was going to do all of them that night. But I got beaten with a crowbar that cost me 12 stitches in my head. And that's when I said, okay, the Lord had to knock some sense into me and get me on the right track. Right. And that's when I really embraced my commitment to change, because I knew if I kept down that road, I was either going to die or go to prison.
Talk, man.
And so I got connected. My mom, to bless her heart, my mom used some foul language to get me to church. Mm-hmm. And I went. And man, that I'll never forget it. I can't remember the text, but the title of the sermon was "A Crack in the Window of Opportunity."
Stop it. Stop it.
I'm telling you, man, when I tell you that thing got all over me, man, that's all I can remember. And before he could say, is there anyone, I had already got him start walking to the front. Yeah. I was committed to the change. My desire was to change. Right. And I stuck with it. Even though I struggled back and forth, but I stuck with it. And then I became confident in the power of God that he could change me. Absolutely. I couldn't do it myself. Absolutely. No man can do it by himself. Right. It may look like you are, but you're really not. Wow. And so I was committed to the change. I was confident in the power of God, and God changed my life, man. Right. Do you know where darkness goes when the light comes on? It's got to go, baby. I don't know where it goes, but I'm glad it is. Yeah. It's gone. Yeah. And when that light showed up for me, I was consumed by giving God all the glory for everything and what he was doing in my life. And my life was complete. I was completely committed to the change. I was confident in God's power, and I was consumed by giving him all the glory, and everything changed.
Wow.
Because I don't have no, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a theologian. I don't have all of the, I don't have all that, Doc. All I know is when I got tired of being tired.
Yeah.
And when that crowbar came across my head and God saved me that night, because if they would have hit me a third time, I would have died.
Yeah.
But he kept me that night.
Yeah.
And this might not, I know this is my story. All of us got stories. All of us got all these different, look, it was the method. The message was the same, but the method was different. It's going to be different for all of us. But as long as the message stays the same.
Absolutely.
The method of how you get there and make that adjustment.
Yeah.
It's going to be different for all of us.
Wow.
But just to lay that out, man, if you got that desire that you want to change, stay committed to the change, stay confident in the power of God, because only he can change.
Absolutely.
And then be consumed by giving him all the glory, because I can't take no glory for what he did.
Right.
I would be in jail or either dead had I not.
Absolutely.
Made my commitment to God and to change, and my, confident in the power of the God, and then being consumed. Ain't no way, Harry, I would never met you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I get you. I get you.
So the way you make that adjustment, man, is you got to nurture your desire, desire to change, and then be committed to it. And then be confident in whose power that you have. Only God can change.
Absolutely.
We can write down stuff, plans of actions and all that stuff, but man, only God could take you to that next level.
Right. Absolutely.
And then you got to give him all the glory on everything.
Everything.
If you don't, you're gonna miss out.
Yeah, you're gonna miss out, man. I love it. I love it. This is going great, Steve, because we're gonna dig into some other things, but it's so important, man, for people to understand your story, right? Now, of course, when I met you, this was all previous, right? We call this on the backside of the mountain, if you will.
Yeah.
And I want to take this time to talk to men who are on the backside of the mountain. Don't think it's strange when you find yourself on the backside of the mountain. Now, Steve just told you all of our backside of the mountains are different. It may look different, feel different, but what I want you to walk away with is the principle of what it's going to take for you to be able to come from behind, because the backside of the mountain in all of our lives is a necessary time, right?
Absolutely.
But there is a time where God says, okay, your time here, all right, it's up. It's time for you to go, you understand, and go do what I called you to do. And so when I say your time is up behind the backside of the mountain and go do what I called you to do, I'm not necessarily talking about being called to preach, being called to minister, whatever your call and your lot in life is, that's what I mean. Because all of us, we're all born with a purpose, right? You may never speak, preach, teach, do any of those things. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about you living the life that God ordained for you. This whole thing is about us marching. I think I need to go back and do a little bit. They may have watched a few episodes and hear us saying marching towards manhood. Well, when we started this back in March, that was during the time the tournament starts, right? The college basketball tournament. And it's called March Madness. We know why it's March Madness. Every team is marching towards the championship. All 64 teams or 66 teams that make the tournament. I don't care what their ranking, what their seed is. Every single one of them has one thing in mind. They're trying to get to that trophy. And they can only get to the trophy by playing the game that's in front of them. They can't be thinking 3 games down. They have to play the game that's in front of them. And I'm telling you, man, if you're listening to me, there is a game that you're involved in right now, right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't have dreams. I'm not saying you shouldn't have visions and goals. You need to have all of that. But you have to address and play in the game of life that you're dealing with right now, right? If you don't address it, you'll spend the next 20, 30 years of your life stuck in this quarter, right? when Steve shared that testimony right there, or that story, he was stuck in a quarter of his life. Now he said he said they used the crowbar was part of the thing to help him come backside of the mountain. His mom was a part of it, right? You know, whoever that office, whoever the that drug dealer was, we may not see it this way, but all of that's a part of the story, right? All of it is. So as men, you have to take a step back. So, man, let me look at this thing. I seem like I've been going around in this circle forever and ever, but this was the key. This is the key. Not only was Steve going around in circle, but one thing, he wanted to come out of the circle. And some men, sometimes we don't know how to come out, right? We don't know how to come out. So I said, we talked about what? Making adjustments. Now, he shared that story about previous. Now I kind of want to move forward, Steve, and I want to tie the two together. So now I want to talk about you as a husband, a father, father who has to go to work every day, but also a husband and father who's a businessman, entrepreneur that has a business. And so now you went from having the responsibility of your wife and your girls now to having this responsibility of having employees, having the responsibility of the community, looking to you for help, guidance, helping a generation of kids, helping their families. I want you to speak to that. And after you speak to it, I'm going to tie and break this together and help men understand what I'm talking about as it relates to marching towards manhood. Talk about that a little bit, Steve. You know, your experience and what that looks like. You know, we've already heard your testimony. Move us forward now in life, where you are now at this stage, in terms of, you know, the different things.
Yeah, you said a purpose. I believe that God put a purpose in every last one of us, and
Absolutely.
it's all divine timing when that purpose is birthed and you see it and you
Right.
embrace it and
Right.
work. God called me in the ministry. He called me to go take care of his business. Okay, and he took me through something and brought me through it and use me to go help somebody else in that same vein.
Got you. Talk about it. Yeah, talk about that.
And so what happened was I had to figure out and pray about, Lord, what is it now? Now how do I move forward with this?
Okay.
I'll never forget, man. I'd been praying, didn't say nothing to me after 90 days. It was just quiet, but I was praying.
Absolutely.
And one day this guy came in, man, and he looked. I'm getting chills just even thinking about it, man. He looked when he came to church, that it was in the late evening service. I saw this glow on him, and I said, "Man, what's going on, man?" He said, "Man, I just come back from Crockett." I said, "Crockett?" I said, "What's that, man?" He said, "It's a boys' school, man. Kids in jail, in prison." I was like, "Oh, okay." He said, "Man, you ought to come go, Steve." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." Now, in my mind, I'm not going.
Right.
Because all I can think of is where I came from and what
Absolutely.
I experienced and all of the emotions I went through and how I hated my daddy and the smell and all. I didn't want to do that.
Absolutely.
And almost instantly, man, God just shot that stuff across me, man. And I said, okay, man, I might check it out. Just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So about 2 weeks later, I went to the meeting. And man, I'm sitting in the meeting, man, and they talking, we're going to leave at 5 o'clock. I said, 5 o'clock? You know, I'm an early bird. So I'm like, okay, that ain't bad. And so, man, I ended up going with them to Crockett State School. Man, when I got to Crockett State School and saw all of those kids that were boys,
yes, sir,
that were locked up. Now watch this. Before then, God had already showed me all kind of vision, man, and it was nothing but boys and girls coming towards me. And I was like, I remember being on 610. I stayed on 610 for about an hour, just going around and around. And I couldn't get off, man. God was crying. I was like, oh no. But anyway, make a long story short, I get to Crockett, man. I sit on the back row, he's treating this boy. And I'm going to myself, now, man, what am I going to do when this is over? So I asked this kid, I said, man, what's your name? Harry, God is my witness, man. He said, man, my name is Moses. And I'm sitting next to Moses. And in my mind, I'm going, now, if I was under the mighty hand of Pharaoh right now,
right,
wherever Moses go, when this is over, I'm going with Moses.
Absolutely.
I went with Moses right after that. He went to a dormitory and they gave me an opportunity. I bought a brand new, had my new NIV. And of course I was a drill sergeant in the military and all that. Holy Spirit, everything kicked in.
Right.
And I asked him, man, can I talk to the kids? He said, yeah. I said, all right, man, everybody want to talk about Jesus. Come sit at this table. And man, chairs were coming everywhere and people were moving, kids were moving. And this one kid said, I don't want to talk about no, and he said a bad word, no Jesus. And I went up, and I was nervous, went up to him, touched him. I said, man, God loves you. He turned around. When I turned around, it was about 30 kids sitting at that table. So I took my Bible and slammed, wham! Had no sermon, had no nothing prepared. All I want to do was talk, man, and we talked about freedom. And all them kids came to Christ that day, man. I'll never forget that, Harry, as long as I live. When I walked out of the dormitory, turned around and looked at the name that was on the door, the name of the dorm was Freedom. That's when I knew this is where I'm supposed to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
2 months later, they made me the leader of that ministry.
Yeah.
I tell you, man, when you are in your purpose.
Yes, sir.
You can feel your hands on the plow and it's moving.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing like it.
Ain't nothing like it. Yes, sir.
Man, I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
People say they were every second Sunday I was going at 5 o'clock. And then I started going a couple of days in the middle of the week, man. I had to ask the Lord for forgiveness because I started lying on my job, man. I'm just straight up, man. I'm just straight up, man. I was caught, I ain't gonna be able to make it today. And I'm on my way to Crockett, Texas to talk to them kids.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it was a beautiful thing, man. I got so hooked on that, man. And you know, within 2 years, man, we had baptized 252 kids. Boy.
Yeah.
And hundreds had come to Christ, man. And I was so like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. When I looked up, 5 years had gone by, I had been all over the state and traveled all the different state schools. My wife was singing, I was preaching, and it was just an amazing journey, man. Amazing journey. So once I found my purpose, I embraced it, man. Like I think that's Luke 9, you go, I had the authority, I had the power, I had the word. I put my hands on the plow and I never looked back. When I looked up, 25 years had gone by.
Now keep your thought. Now, see, guys, I can't make this up. You see his passion. You see what's oozing out of him. Now, and please hear me. I'm not trying to tell you that should be you.
No.
Right? But I am telling you, when you make the adjustment, all of this is happening because he made up in his mind that he's going to make the adjustment, right? Whatever your adjustment is, make your adjustment so you can walk into your purpose. Go ahead, Steve. I had to interject it in because if we don't make the adjustment, look at what we're going to miss out on. The greatest thing in life is walking in your purpose. I'm not talking about preaching. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about purpose now, what you are destined, your purpose in life, right? And if you don't know what your purpose is, you need help finding your purpose. Hit me in the DMs. Come on, reach out, text me, call me. We can help you find your purpose. Go ahead, Steve.
And what I realized, man, God was making me a developer of youth. And I wasn't getting paid. I loved it so much, man. I didn't even need money.
Right.
You know, I would take a trip in my old Ford Ranger. I put 77,000 miles on that truck traveling across the state of Texas to go minister to kids, staying with people I didn't know. And people were putting money in my pocket so I could get gas and they would feed. It was just ministry, man, in the field.
In the field.
And then what really started happening, man, is kids I saw in Crockett 2 years later, I see in Beaumont. Kids I saw in Beaumont and Crockett, I now see down in Giddings. And so recidivism was so high there. My friend, I'll never forget these words. She said, Stephen, you need to turn that passion into a program. And so here was another adjustment I had to make.
Talk about it.
No experience. All I had was a passion and I had the right people around me. I prayed for the right people to be around me. And I began to bounce it off, man. And we moved from a passion that I had to a program. And that's how PACE was born.
Yes, sir. Talk. Steve.
PACE stands for proper self-image, academics, character, and employment. I thought about what I needed when my dad was gone.
Yes.
And so I needed to have the right perspective on who I was, my image. Jesus said, do nothing out of selfish ambition or in vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than as proper self-image.
Right.
Academics, I was pretty good in math. I liked school, but I struggled because of going to see him on a Sunday and then going to school on Monday morning. I'm sitting there.
Yeah.
I still got this stench in my nose.
Right.
I still got this sounds in my ears and this image in my face. But God showed me how to use that as fuel to keep moving forward, to give him glory out of all of what he did.
Man.
We moved from a passion to a program, and man, the program just blew up.
Yes, it did.
And it went from one location for 7 years. I stayed at one location for 7 years, every Wednesday night from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock for 1 year. And in that 7 year, man, God opened that thing up, man, and Pace was sought after because I maintained my integrity.
Yes.
I stayed true to the call.
Yeah.
I was committed to this time I was committed to the work of the Lord.
Right.
I was confident in his power because I knew I couldn't do it on my own.
Absolutely.
If it had been up to me, I would have never went to prison.
Absolutely.
And I never went to prison or jail.
Right.
And then I was consumed with giving him glory. So it went from a passion to a program to an organization.
Yes, sir.
Because now it was all over the city. And this is like, oh man, year 10, I was managing 7 locations for Pace.
Absolutely. Yeah.
With no experience.
Yeah.
No business, no degree.
Yeah.
It was the power of God leading and guiding me, man. As he said, move, I moved. When I needed to bounce something, he put wisdom around me. I had older people, younger people. I had men, women, black, white, Hispanic. It just took off. And you know it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that God put on my heart to do was this, look, we're going to take this statewide. Yes. And I didn't know what that meant until he made people call me. Hey, man, we want to put you in an advocacy program. We want to help you tell your story, and we want you to go to the Capitol. Yes. Capitol? Yes. I don't belong up there. I don't have no, that ain't where I go. I said, well, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I went to the class and ended up getting a scholarship and got recognized and all this for the work that I had been doing. And I was like, it made me cry, man, because I was like, man, no, this is all about him. It ain't about me. About me, right. Yeah, and so I learned, and then I graduated from the program in December of 19. Now I'm 25, I'm 20 plus years in now. So, you know, I get to know what to say, how to say it, and all this kind of stuff, man. But to go in and talk about it to people who I know didn't give a dang about me, who didn't care about the population, I found out that there were 277,000 children that had at least one or both parents in prison at that time. Absolutely. In the state of Texas. Yes. And I was one of them. Right.